Herman Cain. I want to begin with what we saw today, another rough day for our money, for our 401ks. Once again, we were all impacted by the news that the Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 400 points today. The reason? Italy is on the brink of financial disaster. It is the world's 7th largest economy. As president, what will you do to make sure their problems do not take down the U.S. financial system?
Let's start with two things. First, we must grow this economy. We are the biggest economy in the world, and as long as we are stagnant in terms of growth in GDP, we impact the rest of the world. We must do that, but we're not going to be able to do that until we put some fuel in the engine that drives economic growth, which is the business sector. This administration has done nothing but put stuff in the caboose, and it's not moving this economy. We must grow this economy, number one. Number two, we must assure that our currency is sound. Just like a dollar must be a dollar when we wake up in the morning. Just like 60 minutes is in an hour, a dollar must be a dollar. If we are growing this economy the way it has the ability to do, and at the same time we are cutting spending seriously, we will have things moving in the right direction in order to be able to survive these kind of ripple effects.
So to be clear, focus on the domestic economy, allow Italy to fail.
Focus on the domestic economy or we will fail. So yes, focus on the domestic economy first. There's not a lot that the United States can directly do for Italy right now because they're really way beyond the point of return that we as the United States can save them.
You've all said that you will repeal the president's health care legislation. We will get into that because we want to know then what. What is the plan once you repeal Obamacare? But first, Mr. Cain, the American people want jobs, but they also want leadership. They want character in a president. In recent days, we have learned that 4 different women have accused you of inappropriate behavior. Here we're focusing on character and on judgment. You've been a CEO.
Yes.
You know that shareholders are reluctant to hire a CEO where there are character issues. Why should the American people hire a president if they feel there are character issues?
The American people deserve better than someone being tried in the court of public opinion based on unfounded accusations. That's what that's about. And I value my character and my integrity more than anything else. And for every one person that comes forward with a false accusation, there are thousands who would say none of that sort of activity ever came from Herman Cain. You're right. This country is looking for leadership. And this is why a lot of people, despite what has happened over the last 9 days, are still very enthusiastic behind my candidacy. Over the last 9 days, the voters have voted with their dollars, and they'll say they don't care about the character assassination. They care about leadership and getting this economy growing and all of the other problems we face.
Mr. Cain, let's talk fairness in taxation. Ever since this country started taxing income 100 years ago, our system charges those people who make more money a higher rate than those people who make less money. Governor Perry has said he doesn't believe in that approach, and your 999 plan suggests you don't either. Why now, when the higher income group is doing better than the rest of America, is the time to switch to the same rate for all of us?
My proposal is the only one that solves the problem by throwing out the current tax code, which has been a mess for decades, and we need to put in something different that I've proposed. 999. It satisfies 5 simple criteria. It is simple. The complexity costs us $430 billion a year. It is transparent. People know what it is. There are thousands of hidden sneak taxes in the current tax code. That's why I want to throw it out. It is fair. The reason it's fair is because of the definition in Webster, which says everybody gets treated the same, all businesses get treated the same, not having Washington, D.C. pick winners and losers. This is why I have proposed a bold plan of 999, 9% business flat tax, 9% tax on personal income, and a 9% national sales tax. It treats everybody the same, and it will boost this economy.
How do you ensure that when the government needs more revenue, that the sales tax doesn't go up and that plan doesn't turn into 19?
Tax codes do not raise taxes. Politicians do. And as long as it's visible, the people will hold the politicians' feet to the fire. It's not the code that raises taxes. It's the politicians. Because the approach 999 will be very visible, the American people are going to hold the rates at 9.
Mr. Cain, the government-sponsored entities Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, as Congresswoman Bachmann said, now underwrite or guarantee 90% of the home financing in this country. What would you do with these, with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac? Would you shut them down, even though it could mean higher interest rates for Americans and make it even harder than it is right now for Americans to get home loans?
You don't start there. You start with fixing the real problem, which is growing this economy, which is why I have put a bold solution on the table, 999. Secondly, then you get the regulators off of the backs of the banks, like someone mentioned, get the regulators out of the way such that the small banks and the medium-sized banks aren't being forced out of the business. They would then be in a better position, and they might develop a desire in order to help homeowners reset their mortgages if they were able to see, number three, some certainty. Uncertainty is what's killing this economy, and until we throw out the tax code and put in something bold, get government out of the way by reducing the regulatory environment, we are going to still have the housing problem.
I'm sorry, Mr. Cain, but you would come into office and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac would be there, and the question was, what would you do with them?
Okay, after I did those three things that I outlined, then deal with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
Right.
You don't start solving a problem right in the middle of it, so we got to do that first. I would also turn those GSEs into private entities. The government does not need to be in that business. I would find a way to unwind Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac such that the marketplace can determine the future of the housing market.
You have all said that you will repeal President Obama's health care legislation. Down the line, 30 seconds. If you repeal Obamacare, what's the answer? Mr. Cain.
The legislation has already been written. H.R. 3000. In the previous Congress, it was H.R. 3400. And what that does, it's already been written. We didn't hear about it in the previous Congress because Princess Nancy sent it to committee and it stayed there. It never came out. H.R. 3000 allows the decisions to be with the doctors and the patients, not with the bureaucrat in Washington, D.C. The legislation has already been written.
What about the EPA and the new rules coming out of the EPA? Mr. Cain, right now there is a situation with the EPA getting aggressive, the National Labor Relations Board getting aggressive, wanting to shut down a plant in South Carolina. What would you tell Boeing to do? Should they shut down that plant in South Carolina unless they make it union?
Absolutely not. That's what's wrong with government tampering. Absolutely not. The government has no business trying to pick winners and losers, as we have said, whether it's through the front door with legislation or the back door through regulation. Now, if I may go
What about manufacturing? Zero tax rate for one sector of the economy.
Well, this is why my 999 plan makes every sector grow. How about helping everybody, not just one sector? And that's the power of my 999 plan. Number one, it's bold. And yes, I'm the only one that's put a bold plan on the table and not afraid to go out and defend it. Now, as far as getting both sides of the aisle to work together, if I may, I don't see that little yellow light yet. In terms of getting both sides to work together, it's called provide a compelling solution, and the American people, if they understand it, they will demand it. That's how you get both sides of the aisle to work together.
Under a Republican governor, the state of California hired a company in China to build major portions of the new San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge, created thousands of jobs in China. And California did that because it was cheaper. Is that smart purchasing by government in a global economy, or is there something wrong with that?
There's something wrong with that, which is why I have proposed a bold plan, 999, and allow me to explain how, under 999, that company would be more inclined to keep the business here. On the first 9, you take sales minus purchases, net exports, and capital. It levels the playing field between goods produced here in the United States and the rest of the world. It makes the United States much more competitive, and businesses won't be tempted to build overseas, send jobs overseas. The tax code is what sends jobs overseas. The tax code is what caused them to buy those articles from the Chinese. It starts with replacing the tax code.
Mr. Cain, I want to go to you with this question. This does not lend itself to 999 or any other number.
Well,
okay.
Sorry, I didn't hear the first part.
This question does not lend itself to 999 or any other thing. This is our final word, okay? And it comes from our viewers. And it is all about restoring trust and faith in our markets and in our way of life. I'm going to be quoting Joanne Cornbleed. She emails us. She says, our stock market has turned into a casino with high-frequency computerized trading comprising 70% of all transactions, and hedge fund speculation resulting in volatile market swings before privatizing Social Security. How would you make the stock market safer for individual investors? And Mr. Cain, just simple. How do we restore faith in the markets for the little guy?
The first thing we do is restore faith in business by providing certainty so businesses can grow. A lot of the volatility is being driven by uncertainty. Businesses are uncertain about what the healthcare rules are going to be. They don't know what the tax rules are going to be. All of the uncertainty has this economy stagnated. So the way you restore that, grow this economy. That's job one. Many of the things we talked about up here today starts with growing the economy. And that's why we've got to use a bold plan, I won't mention it, in order to grow the economy.
When the economy was growing great, sir, there was no trust. You know, when the economy was going great, people were getting ripped off, and there was insider trading. When the economy was going great, people were getting hurt in the stock market. Forget the economy.
Jim,
talk about the way the market's regulated.
Jim, I feel your pain. Look, here's what I'm saying.
How about the 90 million people who got money in the market?
No, Jim, you got to provide certainty in this environment so businesses will grow. They have been in a mode of survive. They need to be in a mode of growth. That's what we got to do first. And I agree with some of the others who said we got to repeal Dodd-Frank. There's 3 big things wrong with Dodd-Frank, which is why it needs to be a top priority to repeal. Number one, it doesn't provide oversight for Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and we all agreed that that was the catalyst for the meltdown in 2008. The 2 other biggest problems with Dodd-Frank, Dodd and Frank.